this point. So if you'll give me a brief moment. This incident actually came to our attention about 10 p.m. last night. We actually got a phone call from an individual that was anonymous, and he inquired as to the whereabouts of Trayvon Johnson, 22 years old, who is an inmate in our jail, and he's there for homicide and other related charges. He didn't identify himself, the caller didn't, but he basically inferred that we might need to check his whereabouts. So at that time, jail staff went back to the dorm where he was assigned. He was not there. Lockdown ensued, a count ensued to confirm that they were one short. I was notified, as well as other people in my administration. Upon arrival, we did another count and confirmed they were actually one short. We began looking at jail surveillance video and interviewing employees, and what we determined that was at about 4:15 p.m., there was an incident in one of the dorms in the jail where inmates had basically flooded the cell. They stopped up a shower and flooded it. As a result, a deputy was dispatched to the back with a crew of trustees to clean the water out of that dorm. While they were doing so, they opened the back door to the jail that leads into the yard. That's after they had pushed all the water out of the dorm into the hallway. They secured the dorm. They were going to the back to open the exterior door. Whether it was a miscommunication or lack thereof, the dorm was reopened for about a minute. When the individual, the deputy working the controls, opened the dorm and realized that the back door was open, she immediately closed that door. And the time that door was open to that inmate dorm was literally right at less than a minute. But it was enough time for an individual to get out. Two individuals, actually. The inmate, or the deputy that had control of the trustees, went to that exterior door to make sure it was shut, at which time he encountered an inmate named Trayvon Wallace. It's Trevon Wallace, Trayvon Wallace. He got him, he escorted him back to the cell. And that's where operationally the second opportunity was missed. They didn't do a count at that time. They knew they had at least one individual out the cell at about 4:20 p.m., 4:28 p.m. He secures him back in the cell. It was never reported up the chain of command. Another count was not done. At 6 p.m., about shift change, is when an official count was done by two employees, two other corrections deputies. Their accounting showed every inmate present. Upon us reviewing the video last night, we realized that that's not the case. We observed on video they did not do a proper count. And we have policies in place for this. We have procedures in place that dictate the amount of counts that we're supposed to do per day. So that's another opportunity missed. We go back and additional review of the video of the outside rec yard, if you will. We see on that video at 4:28 p.m. First, you see an individual scaling the back fence. And this camera, it's a pan, tilt, and zoom camera. It's automatic. It just sweeps back and forth. So when it sweeps to the right, you see the first individual almost to the top of the fence. The camera goes away, and when it swings back, you see a second individual underneath him, giving him a boost. That second individual was Mr. Wallace. For whatever reasons, whether he couldn't get over the fence on his own or he was just there to help the first individual get over that fence, he returned back into the jail, and that's where our deputy intercepted him. As a result, Mr. Wallace, who's still in our jail, has been charged with simple escape himself, and he's been charged with principal to that second simple escape. Within an hour's time frame of us learning about this incident at 10:30 or about 10:28 p.m., we notified surrounding law enforcement agencies. We notified Lavins, who's in charge of notifying victims of crimes, to make sure we got the word out to that family immediately. We entered him into NCIC as an escapee. Warrants were applied for. Playing out at the same time, and mind you, as you've been briefed previously, he escaped prior to us coming on board in our administration. He was located in the Baptist area, in that community. We received, I think it's a 911 call, we received a call of a suspicious subject. So our deputies already are en route to that area. And we had a contingency of deputies already on duty. I was out earlier that evening because we were doing some proactive enforcement in that area, totally unrelated. A deputy encountered an individual, black male, matched that description, different clothing. That individual ran, entered the woods. We notified Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office and Louisiana State Police, as well as Hammond Police Department. Between our three agencies, we deployed a perimeter of law enforcement officers. We put drones in the air. We put dogs on the ground. And when we left there, I was out there myself, we left there about 3 o'clock this morning. We had exhausted that search. And at that time, this individual, who we believe may have been him, we can't 100% confirm it is, but we believe it to be, was still on the loose. That brings us into today. We tried to put the information out as quick as we could last night, and already this morning we've gotten calls, we've gotten Crime Stopper tips, and we are actively working those tips right now as we speak. So my message to Mr. Trevon Johnson is that we will find you, and my best advice to you is to turn yourself in. I'd also like to take a minute to apologize to the victims that this individual is out on the street. I'm sheriff of this parish. I own this. We have worked diligently over the last 10 months to stop attrition in that jail, to get good leadership in that jail, to address deficiencies in that jail, and we're still a work in progress. And we're going to get this right. I'd also like to take a moment just to apologize to the community that this individual is out on the streets, and just to let them know that, again, we are working and we're not going to stop until this individual is brought back into custody. What we've done to date with the information we have, we've placed at least 4 individuals on administrative leave, pending a full review of it. But we're looking at every aspect of this and looking at where opportunities were missed. As I said again, we basically rewrote the policy for jail operations. And we've worked with DOC, we've had ongoing conversations with the Department of Corrections, we've had ongoing conversations with other wardens, been to other jails around the state, and trying to implement change and bring that to here. I took over a jail, quite frankly, that was a mess. I'm not making excuses, I'm just stating objective facts, and I'm talking operationally. None of the employees, next to none of the employees were trained, post-certified as correction deputies, but we've made great strides in training. Even the most recent warden that we've appointed. You know, there was another individual that was offered that job, and he wasn't taking that monster for the budget that we had. But our warden has stepped up, and he's doing his level best. In just the short couple months that he's been in, I've sent him to continuing education at a warden's conference. I've sent him to a leadership course, and there's other training. And we've had other administrators that have come alongside him and the employees of that jail to make it work. And they're all doing it for, again, $16 and some change an hour. But nonetheless, they're there, it's a calling. Again, we own this, but we will take him back into custody. So, with that, I'll render the floor. Chris?
Is there any reason to believe that the clogging of that cell was part of a plan to lead to this escape?
Yeah, we absolutely looked at that. There's no indication. I think he took advantage of a vulnerable moment and seized it, because there's no way to know that that ultimately that back door, that exterior door would be open, and that interior door, you know, for lack of better words, it was a comedy of errors. And so, but that is an aspect that we've looked at and are looking at. It may be a possibility, but everything that we're seeing, this was just, it was just an opportunistic moment. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, how many deputies are on a shift at a time, and how many times are routine checks done per week?
So we do at least, I think there are at least 4 counts per shift. And the number of deputies on shift in the jail, corrections deputies, is it 12? What do we? Yeah, about a dozen deputies. So in each dorm, there's multiple dorms, and you have a pod that a deputy sits in, and you have rovers. And the rovers' jobs actually go, you know, from pod to pod, dorm to dorm, and check on things. They do feed up, medical calls, stuff like that. There's about 12 to a shift, and we've looked at that since we've been there. You know, quite frankly, I'd like to add the number of employees to that jail. We tried to do so. You know, that was my intention with one of the intentions with the recent sales tax initiative that we put on the ballot, was to hire additional employees. You know, that jail's the same size that it was when it was built, you know, 30 plus years ago, and it has the same number of beds in it. But the reporting responsibilities and all the requirements imposed upon us from DOC and other agencies, there's a lot more work, a lot more documentation that has to be done. So, and you know, I think we're 4 bodies down in that jail. But when I took over, we were 14. And my directive to the command staff here is, for every 1 opening we have, is to hire 3 people. Because one of 2 things has happened. They're getting there. Look, I welcomed the young lady a couple months ago. She showed up, getting processed at 9 o'clock. Hey, welcome aboard, glad to have you. And at 9:45, you know, one of my guys was saying she quit. She walked in that jail and left, you know. But we'll continue to move forward, and we'll continue to you know, do the best we can with the resources at hand. So, yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, given Johnson's history of escape, why was he housed here after he escaped the first time? Would it make sense to put him somewhere where he wasn't familiar?
Sure, and you know, we looked at that and we addressed it. What we tried to do, and there were requests that were made to get him moved to other locations. You know, yeah, they are wards of DOC, but ultimately, and we do it as well, whenever someone requests to bring someone in a tire jail, they look at 2 things. They look at their medical history, and they look at their conduct record, their behavior. And basically, look, they're all problem children. Some are worse than others. And, you know, that's, for lack of better words, why we're stuck with him and others as well.
So how can you ensure that he won't escape for a third time when he is caught? I believe you will catch him. But
No, absolutely. You know, we will catch him, and we're, you know, currently assessing the situation at this time. I pointed out, you know, those missed opportunities. You know, so we have some training stuff that we need to address. We have some discipline stuff that we need to address, and we will continue to, you know, to do so. You know, already prior to this, we brought on a compliance officer, and that compliance officer, their sole purpose in life is to make sure that counts are done. Doors are locked that need to be locked, and procedures are followed. We hired an individual a couple months ago. Yeah, big surprise, they left. As yesterday morning, though, we appointed a new individual for that role. They didn't start yesterday, but they were given that appointment. It's an inside person. So we're taking measures to, you know, for quality control. But that's where we're at. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
If that member of the public hadn't called in, how long would it have taken to figure out that Trayvon Johnson was gone?
Well, hopefully on the very next count that was done properly. Yes, sir.
Have you guys looked into any rideshare potentials in the inmate area? Potentially, maybe, I know like someone who escaped from that New Orleans jail, he had got a rideshare right outside the jail. Have you guys looked into any of that, or maybe looked into what direction he might have headed? Was there any video outside the jail that actually showed, did he run into the woods? Did he, anything like that?
Yeah, so we don't have any information currently on, you know, rideshare accounts. Obviously, that's something that we're looking into. There was an individual, a building supply store that's neighbors the jail, that, you know, once this broke, they came forward, made a statement that basically that individual, who we believe to be our escapee, was in their store, which is nearby the jail. And so, yeah.
Sure, in the aftermath of the last escapes, a lot of razor wire was put around the facility, but you're talking about an individual boosting someone up. Can you lay out how that would work? I mean, was he like in front of the razor wire and lifting him at an angle, or was there a patch where there was no razor wire?
So no, I mean, look, we put up over a mile of wire with the recent improvements. So there was I think it was a towel or a blanket that was laid across the top of it. And as I understand it, there was some blood there at the scene, so we believe he injured himself. But there's two fences, a shorter inner perimeter fence. There's an area, and then there's the exterior fence, and it's got wire across the middle of it and the top. And you know, they're agile. He scaled it, not without injury, but he did scale it.
To follow up on my colleague's question, with what frequency are these headcounts happening? Every 3 hours, 4 hours? Is there a timeline?
So yeah, it's a 12-hour shift, and they're counting, you know, 4 times, at least 4 times a shift they're supposed. So every 3 hours.
Okay, so then there would have been another head count potentially at 9 o'clock then that was also improperly done, correct?
Yeah, and I don't know when this was. Yeah, so I don't know when the next count was done after the 6 p.m. count. The information that I have, there was a 6 p.m. count, and when that call came in, was it 10 o'clock, whatever time it was? That's when the next count went.
Okay, so if it was every 3 hours and there was a count happening at 6, was there no count at 9?
No, it's just they try to do them every 4 hours, you know, but sometimes it's flexible, whether it's, you know, med call, feed up, jail call, or court call rather. But on the average, that's how many times per shift that they should be doing those counts.
You're joined by the parish president. You made it clear in the aftermath of the last few escapes that resources were needed, money was needed. Have you gotten what you need from the parish in the years since those escapes?
Sure, we've worked together, great, but with those allocations, because a lot of it's grant money and state funding for that, and that takes time. Mind you, we've been 10 months and some change in office now to get those requests in the pipeline and to get, you know, state approval and to get that money approved and then dispersed. It takes time, and so there are several things in the works. Like I say, the roof was $2 million. It was leaking like a sieve when I come into the offices, the pods, the Sally port, which is the big cage that sits right in front of the jail, been inoperable. And so, you know, that's been fixed. We're looking at additional cameras, new cameras and additional cameras. Let's see, an RFID system. We have $250,000 in grant money, the fentanyl money, for a full body scanner. So there are several things on top of working in policy and procedures, training of employees. We are exhausting every option to get tools into that jail. The RFID counters with, you know, the wristbands, instead of relying on a deputy to walk in to the doorway and look across the room and say, you know, all 30 people are here, that they have a band that they have to go physically scan and electronically enter. But all that technology costs money. And so we're back to, you know, a big chief pad and a number 2 pencil to do counts. And, you know, you got human error. And so, but that's the, you know, operationally, that's the things we own, that's the things that we moving forward will drill into our employees. And we have been, the importance of it. They understand it, but mistakes are made, but they're going to be addressed. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any sign at all that Johnson was inspired by or even knew about the New Orleans escape?
Yeah, I don't have that information to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, by any chance, being that he's been here before, he's escaped before, do you think he's been planning to do this as well as saying anything?
Yeah, I mean, it would just be speculation. I think obviously there was an opportunity that he saw, and he seized that opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, given that Johnson made his escape at 4:30, there should have been a head count once staff saw an inmate outside, but there wasn't. Then come back at 6 o'clock, there should have been a head count. There was a head count, however, it wasn't accurate. Then come back at 9, there should have been a head count. There wasn't. We know that Cyprian, he was gone 10 days before
That's right.
anyone ever knew he was missing. So I say all of that to say this. Do we think that it's the problem is just staff that maybe don't care, or do you think it could have been intentional, or are they just not well trained enough to do their job properly?
No, it's definitely not that, you know, they don't care, they do. And, you know, yeah, it was 10 days on the last one, but it was 6 hours for this one. You know, any excuse, 5 minutes, 6 minutes is no excuse. And so, you know, we're not looking at a 10-day window that he was gone. You know, it was a matter of hours. Yeah, it was due to a phone call, but I gotta believe. Look, and unrelated story. You know, I arrested a jail nurse when I first come in for bringing in contraband. I arrested an employee for bringing in contraband. Here a couple months ago, I gave an employee an award for reporting when she was solicited to bring contraband for cash into that jail. So we got employees doing the right thing, and they're doing a great job given the situation that the environment they're placed in, and then what they're getting paid. And it's a high attrition rate, and so the training aspect is perpetual, it's ongoing, because as soon as you get somebody up to speed, they're leaving somewhere else for more money. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any predictions as to where Johnson might be heading, or do y'all believe he'll probably stay in the area as he did last time?
Well, like I say, our last believed location when we were on him, which we suspect was him last night, is in the Baptist area. You know, we're looking at his contacts, his family, where they may be, and so we believe that he's still in the area. We'll tell you, I mean, as we speak right now, we have detectives out working an active tip, and that tip is local. So. Yes, sir.
When you and I first met, you talked about how the jail, if it becomes too much of a headache or if it's too expensive, I'll study the idea of privatizing it. Are we at that point?
No, we're not at that point. We're not. You know, I'm working with the Louisiana Sheriff's Association. I'm working with DOC. Some of the conversations that I've had, and I actually had one literally yesterday morning, was with another sheriff and bringing their warden in next week, just as an extra set of eyes to come in and help train and shore my people up. Look, we're committed to running this jail. The jail itself is safe, and the structure itself is secure, but policies weren't followed. And that's where this lapse occurred. And so we'll address those violations, those shortcomings with discipline and training, so.
We got two
yes,
more,
sir.
y'all.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea, was Wallace in this same facility last year when this escape happened, and did he have any type of role or anything at all in that previous escape?
No, I don't know. I do not know.
Was he in the facility though a year ago when the other escape happened though?
I don't have that information. Yes, ma'am.
Are state police or any federal law enforcement helping with this search right now?
Sure. We have the Louisiana State Police, their task force, working with our detectives. We're heading this up, but they are assisting us. And I've talked to several other neighboring sheriffs, and they've lended their support to us. All I have to do is ask for it. And but there again, we are actively working tips and following up on this. And you know, I appreciate your interest in it and helping us bring this to the forefront. He will be captured, and he will go back into our jail, and we will address our shortcomings, and we will move forward.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.